Welcome to the class. Today on Pineapple Tree Cooking Channel, Jardine, Isabel, Navnesh, Jacqueline, and I are going to show you how to make a classic treat. As usual, we will start off the class with one fun fact. Let me ask you one quick question. Do you know what is so special about the date of April 20th? 3, 2, 1, time's up. Is that one of our birthdays? Not really. But the answer is actually in the picture itself. Yes, it is something related to pineapples. And if you look closer to the picture on the right, you probably can identify that it is a pineapple upside down cake. April 20th is the National Pineapple Upside Down Cake Day. And technically, it's not too far from now. So if you have never made this cake before, you have no excuse anymore. So what is so special about pineapple upside down cake? It is a cake baked in a single pan. Chop or sliced fruits such as pineapples, cherries, or even apples, peaches, together with the butter and sugar are placed on the bottom of the pan before the batter is poured in. That is why it is called upside down. After baking, you just need to flip the cake over and serve it on a serving plate. If you want to use the fresh pineapple, like the canned one here, you may find that sometimes the pineapple is not as juicy as you want. So the quick tip here is that you can simply saw off the top of the pineapple, flip it over on the plate, yes, flip it over again, cover it in plastic wrap, and throw it in the fridge for a couple of days. The idea is that the juice will trickle down from the bottom part of the fruit and distribute throughout the whole pineapple for a tasty treat. Now, close your eyes and imagine. There are glistening slices of sweet and sticky pineapple sitting happily on the top of the top while we wait at it, together with the cherries in the center. Who can resist the temptation? Pineapples are known for symbolizing hospitality, friendship, and generosity, so there is truly no better way to welcome guests to our home than with this delicious treat and its thousands of variations. It can be served for afternoon tea, dinner parties, you name it, and it's simply perfect for any occasion. Pineapple upside down cake is probably one of the easiest cakes you can make. Rest assure you that even if you are a beginner, it is totally manageable and that will be a lot of fun. So no matter if you're an experienced baker or you're a novice cake cook, we hope that by the end of this training, you will be able to first know the baking ingredients, tools, and equipment required to bake an upside down pineapple cake. Second, you are able to bake an upside down pineapple cake, following the recipe and instructions that are provided for you. Last but not least, you have the ability to come up with different variations of upside down fruitcakes.
Now we're going to share a brief background of the upside down pineapple cake. First, upside down cakes were normally common in the late 1800s. Back then, they were known as skillet cakes or spider cakes due to the early Americans using the particular cast iron skillets with legs protruding on the bottom, naming them spider skillets. This is also due to the fact that ovens weren't made around that time, so people used to cook on skillets over open fires. And if they wanted a sweet treat, then fruits would be put on the bottom of the skillet pan with the batter on top, and they would flip it as soon as it's cooked, which would then reveal a pattern of caramelized fruit as the topping. Since the evolution of the modern day kitchen, these particular cakes were baked in the oven using a cake pan. It wasn't until the early 1900s when Jim Dole, who was the creator of Dole, created an innovative way to can pineapples that are cut into rings. The company then sponsored a contest for a particular pineapple recipe, and out of the 60,000 submissions, 2,500 of them were of the upside down pineapple cake. The cake became increasingly popular after Dole sent an advertisement. And ever since then, the cake's recipe appeared in magazines and cookbooks, and eventually a statement piece for gathering dinners. Now, without further ado, let's get to baking the upside down pineapple cake. So here are the following pieces of equipment you will need to bake this cake. First, you will need a pan to bake your cake mixture. You can choose a cake tin or a pie dish, 8 to 9 inches in diameter, which would be preferred in order to align with your cake ingredients. So in my case, I will be using a glass pan. And next, you will need to measure your wet and dry ingredients by using measuring cups and measuring spoons. Baking is all about precision, so you will need the exact measurements of each ingredient in order for it to bake well. Using these cups will be the perfect guide into accurately measuring your ingredients. So most measuring spoons come in a tablespoon, a teaspoon, half a teaspoon, a third teaspoon, and a fourth teaspoon. And they usually come in little bundles like this. And most measuring cups come in 1 cup, right over here, half a cup, a third cup, and a fourth cup. And we'll definitely be using most of these measurements in the recipe. So next you will need a knife. This will be used to level out your ingredients wet to dry to avoid them from heating. Then you will need a bowl to put all of your ingredients together. We will be using 2 bowls. So we have a bigger bowl for all of the dry ingredients. I have a really big one right here. And then you'll be needing a smaller bowl for all of your wet ingredients. So that's the small bowl. And next you'll have to mix them together using a wire whisk or an electric mixer. For me, I have both, but you choose either one. All right, and then you will need a spatula to help transfer the cake mix into your pan, and it'll help get all the mixture in the bowl. So for me, I'll be using this one, but you can use a silicone one as well. You'll need a microwave to soften your butter, an oven to bake your cake, and you need a wire rack to cool down your cake, and finally a plate to place your cake before flipping it. So next you'll have to gather all of the ingredients you need. So the prep and bake time for this cake is 1 hour and 30 minutes, and it serves up to 8 to 10 people. So first you'll need a 1/4 cup of unsalted butter melted. Then you will need a 1/2 cup of packed brown sugar, which I have in this cute little canister here. Then you will need 8 to 10 pineapple slices. They usually come in a can. And 15 to 20 maraschino cherries. So this will be for the topping. So for the cake batter, you will need 1½ cups of cake flour. You can use all-purpose flour as well. 1 teaspoon of baking powder. 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter, softened. A 1/3 cup of granulated white sugar, 2 large egg whites that will have to be separated, 1/3 cup of sour cream, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and a 1/3 cup of whole milk or a dairy alternative of your choice. I have 2%. So here's a breakdown of some of the ingredients we used for this recipe. So we use cake flour because it is lighter than all-purpose flour, and it leaves a light and airy texture within the cake, followed by a soft crumb. We use both baking soda and baking powder because they both help with leavening the cake under the heavy topping once the cake has been flipped. And then we add in the salt to enhance the overall flavor of the cake and to balance out the sweetness between the pineapple and the sugars. Both butter and sugar are used to keep the cake soft and moist. The butter helps coat the cake mixture, which results in a soft crumb. We use unsalted butter for the recipe because it helps control the overall salt content. The salt is primarily used to add sweetness onto the cake, but it also helps cream the butter prior to being mixed in with the other ingredients. The butter is then cut from the sugar granules, allowing air into the mixture, which helps leaven the pastry. Now that we have all of our ingredient and equipment ready, we'll move forward with the directions of the baking process.
When doing any sort of baking, the first step is always to preheat your oven. For this recipe, you'll need to preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit before you begin preparing your cake. Making sure your oven is at the recommended temperature is crucial. If you put your cake in before the oven has reached 375 degrees Fahrenheit, then it won't evenly bake, and with the extra time it will need in the oven, it can cause your topping to melt and fall apart. Once you preheat your oven, it's time to start the topping. You're going to begin by pouring 1/4 cup of melted butter into an ungreased cake pan or pie dish. Then sprinkle a 1/2 cup of packed brown sugar evenly across the pan. Finally, you want to arrange the pineapple slices, maraschino cherry, or the other fruit of your choosing around the pan to create an even layer for your topping. Once you have completed your topping, place it in the refrigerator and set as you prepare the batter. The longer your topping has to set, the better, so feel free to prepare it in up to a day in advance. The next step is to prepare your cake batter. Using a small bowl, add in 1.5 cups of cake flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Then whisk together your dry ingredients until they are completely combined. Once they are combined, set your bowl aside and begin working with the wet ingredients. Using a large bowl, you're going to cream together 6 tablespoons of softened unsalted butter, a 3/4 cup of granulated sugar using an electric hand mixer. Once your butter and sugar create a smooth, creamy texture, add in your 2 large egg whites, a 1/3 cup of sour cream, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Continue beating your mixture until each ingredient is fully combined. Once your wet mixture is ready, you're going to add it to your bowl of dry ingredients and continue to beat everything together. Slowly pour in your 1/3 cup of room temperature whole milk into the bowl as you combine your ingredients. Once all of your ingredients are fully combined, you should have a thick batter that will create a dense cake once it is baked. Once your batter is ready, it's time to add it to your topping. Remove your set topping from the fridge and using a spatula, spread the batter over your layer of pineapples. Make sure to smooth out your batter as much as possible, as when you flip the cake, the base will need to be flat to rest your cake tray and support the pineapple topping. Once your batter is evenly spread around your cake pan, it's finally time to bake. Place your cake in your 375-degree oven for 43 to 48 minutes. Different types of ovens will cause your cake to bake at different speeds, so it's best to know the type of oven you're working with in order to gauge how long your cake may need to bake. You should check your cake around halfway through the baking process, and if it seems to be browning too quickly, remove it from the oven and create a loose tinfoil tent over the pan to keep it from burning. Once your cake has baked for the recommended period of time, you can use a toothpick to check if it's finished. Remove the cake from the oven and poke the toothpick about halfway down directly into the center. If when removed the toothpick comes out clean and dry, your cake is ready. But if it comes out with wet batter on it, you'll want to stick it back in the oven to continue baking. Once your cake is fully baked, remove it from the oven and place the pan onto a wire cooling rack. You want your cake to cool completely before flipping it, so leave it on the rack for 20 to 30 minutes or until the pan is cooled to the touch. After your cake is cooled completely, using your favorite cake tray or plate, it is time to carefully flip your cake. Place the cake upside down on top of the cake pan, then hold the bottom of the plate and the bottom of the pan in each hand. Slowly and carefully flip the pan upside down so your plate is not flat on the table. You should be able to easily remove the cake pan, but it may need an extra wiggle to fully remove your cake. If done correctly, when you lift the cake pan, it should reveal a beautiful caramelized pineapple topping. This means your cake is done and ready to eat. Serve warm or place your cake back in the fridge until desired.
So now it's time to watch the video tutorial. Our group has provided you with the YouTube link on our slide number 15. You just have to click on the link and you will be able to watch our YouTube video. This video will be very helpful for you as it will form a clear picture about the texture you need for the batter. You can watch this video at any time and as many times as you want. So enjoy the video.
How to bake a pineapple upside down cake. The first step is to prepare the topping. To do so, you will need a 1/4 cup of melted unsalted butter, a 1/2 cup of packed brown sugar, and 8 to 10 pineapple slices. You may also include maraschino cherries or other small berries and fruit in your topping for extra decoration and flavor. Begin by pouring the melted butter into an ungreased cake pan or pie dish. Then sprinkle the brown sugar evenly across the pan. Finally, arrange the pineapple slices and fruit of choice around the pan to create an even layer of your topping. Let the topping set in the refrigerator as you prepare the batter. To prepare your cake batter, you will need 1.5 cups of cake flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 6 tablespoons of softened unsalted butter, 3/4 cups of granulated sugar, 2 large egg whites, 1/3 cup of sour cream, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 1/3 cup of whole milk. Starting with the dry ingredients, in a small bowl add the flour, baking powder, baking soda, and salt. Whisk together until combined. Then, in a large bowl, add the softened butter and use an electric mixer to create a creamy texture.
Once your butter is creamy, add the sugar and continue mixing until incorporated. Add the egg whites, vanilla, and sour cream, and continue beating until each ingredient is well combined. Use a spatula to scrape down the sides as needed. Once your wet ingredients are completely combined, pour in your dry mixture and continue to beat, slowly pouring in the milk throughout the process. When all your ingredients are completely combined, your batter is ready to be added to the topping. Using a spatula, slowly add your batter to the topping, making sure to create a smooth and even layer. Once the batter is in the pan, place your cake in the oven and bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 43 to 48 minutes. Check your cake halfway through the baking process and tent with tinfoil if you feel that the top is browning too quickly. You can check that your cake is done by poking a toothpick into the top. If the toothpick comes out clean, your cake is finished, but if it comes out with wet batter on it, your cake will need some extra time to bake. Once your cake has finished baking, place on a wire cooling rack for 20 to 30 minutes. After your cake has cooled, it's time to flip. Place your cake tray or plate of choice on top of the baking dish and carefully flip your cake, removing the baking dish to reveal the caramelized pineapple topping. Serve and enjoy.
Next, we'll talk about the variations. As we all know that baking is a fun activity, so it totally depends on the person who is baking the cake, what are his preferences and what they want in their cake. So if a person wants to bake an eggless cake, they can bake it without eggs. And if a person wants to use any other kinds of fruits like apples, bananas, pears, or all kinds of berries, they can use it. Then, the shape and size of the cake. The cake can be of any shape and any size. It can be a heart-shaped cake, a donut cake, and the shape. The shape of the cake can be like a pastry or a muffin. You can bake whatever you want in this cake. So enjoy baking this upside-down pineapple cake. In the next slide, you will watch all the variations that you can make in this cake. Thank you.
In this training, you have learned the baking ingredients, tools, and equipment required to bake an upside-down pineapple cake. To bake, make sure your oven is preheated and stays at 375 Fahrenheit to ensure the optimum cake texture. We also describe the preparation of baking ingredients. For example, using the cake flour makes it lighter, and the use of both baking powder and baking soda adds fluffiness to contrast the heavy sugarness of the fruit toppings. In this presentation, you watch the video demonstrating how the upside-down pineapple cake is baked. We also made suggestions and show some examples of how you can make other type of upside-down pineapple cakes or fruit cakes. With its beautiful pattern and vibrant color, the upside-down pineapple cake makes a great showcase at any dinner party. Here in the picture, you can see the pineapple cake as a centerpiece for a Chinese New Year's dinner. You can also use it for Christmas, Hanukkah, Thanksgiving, or even Easter holidays. We suggest using the hot upside-down pineapple cake to make a perfect display for any festive holidays. For references, we extracted this recipe from Sally's Baking Addiction. Sally McKinney is a well-known baker, blogger, photographer, and she has published several bake books. Upside Down Pineapple Cake is one of her online publications. I have an example of a Sally's Baking Addiction bake book here. It's very pretty and colorful. We did several research on the creation and history of the pineapple upside down cake. Other references we've used include Harley's Best Ever Pineapple Upside Down Cake and Stradley's Pineapple Upside Down Cake Recipe and History. These references outline the creation of this famous pineapple cake by Dole, the canned fruit company. Finally, I would like to conclude this presentation by thanking all of you to participate in this training. We hope you enjoyed this baking session and would like to try the recipe at home. If you do bake an upside down cake, whether it's pineapple or any other variations, please share with us your pictures and experience. We're happy to answer any questions you may have regarding this recipe. If you think of any questions later, feel free to email me at jackie.shen@georgebrown.ca. That is jackie.shen@georgebrown.ca. A recipe of the upside down pineapple cake will be emailed to all of you after this presentation. There will be a survey to help us improve our future training design and presentations, and we will appreciate you taking the time to fill it out. Thank you again from all of us. This is from Irene, Isabel, Jacqueline, Jardine, and Navleesh. Have a great day, everyone.